Have you ever noticed, sometimes, a single thoughtless remark is enough to alter your mood for the entire day? Someone cuts in front of you in traffic, a criticism, a cold text message, a plan that goes awry, or simply someone treating you in a way you believe you do not deserve. And instantly, a battle begins within you. You feel anger, you want to retaliate, you want to prove that you are right. You want the other person to understand what they did wrong. Yet, pause for a single second and ask yourself, why on earth does someone else possess the power to so easily command your mind? Marcus Aurelius once reminded us that we always hold the power to withhold judgment. Think deeply upon that. You are not obligated to form an immediate opinion. You are not forced to react the very moment you are provoked. Nor are you mandated to let another person's action dictate your state of mind. Much of the anger we endure does not truly originate from the event itself. It stems from the meaning we assign to that event. A single word may take only seconds to utter, yet you may carry it in your head for hours. An incident occurs once, yet you may replay it dozens of times within your mind. And each time you recall it, you stoke your anger anew. That is the trap. Stoicism does not teach you to become a cold, unfeeling automaton. It trains you to become someone who refuses to be dragged about like a puppet by their emotions. Because true strength does not lie in controlling others. It lies in the absolute mastery of oneself. Epictetus famously emphasized that what hurts us is not what happens, but our own judgment about what happens. What does this mean? It means the external world may exert pressure upon you, but it has no inherent right to seize control of your interior. Anger may arise, frustration may surface, pain may appear, yet you alone retain the authority to decide how long they are permitted to stay. Today, we traverse 8 Stoic principles designed to liberate you from the endless loop of anger, resentment, and anxiety. And if you truly apply them, you will not merely learn to remain calm in the face of those who exasperate you. You will begin reclaiming something infinitely more valuable, the sovereign dominion over your inner world. Do not merely listen as a spectator. Examine your own life through the lens of each principle. Because what you are about to discover may not be how to change other people, but how to stop surrendering your self-control to them. Principle 1. Separate the event from the narrative you tell yourself. Seneca once pointed out that humans suffer more often in imagination than in reality. The exact same dynamic applies to anger. You rarely grow angry solely because of a bare event. You grow angry because of the narrative you construct around that event. Imagine you are driving. Another vehicle suddenly swerves and cuts directly across your lane. What unfolds inside your mind? Instantly, thoughts flash through. This person has absolute contempt for me. They drive with reckless disregard, utterly devoid of basic respect. Within mere seconds, a simple physical action has been magnified into a profound personal insult. Yet, what is the objective truth? You do not know. Perhaps they are racing to a hospital. Perhaps they failed to see you in their blind spot. Perhaps they are simply a careless driver. Regardless of the cause, a vital question remains. Why should someone else's carelessness rob you of your peace? This is precisely where Stoic philosophy reveals its profound strength. An event, in and of itself, carries no intrinsic label of good or bad. It is our internal judgment that manufactures the vast majority of the weight we feel. Marcus Aurelius frequently reminded himself that when an external thing causes you distress, the pain arises not from the thing itself, but from your estimation of it. And if judgment is something you added, you possess the power to alter it. The next time anger flares, do not instantly demand, "Who did this to me?" Instead ask, "Am I suffering because of what actually transpired, or because of the meaning I am assigning to it. A single question creates a sacred space between you and your anger. And within that space, you begin to reclaim your power of choice. How do you practice this? First, pause. When something distresses you, do not react on autopilot. Inhale slowly. Exhale. Repeat 3 times. 3 breaths may seem trivial, yet sometimes those few seconds are all that stands between you and a reaction you will later regret. Second, rewrite your perspective. Instead of declaring, "This is profoundly unjust to me," challenge yourself. Is it certain this was intentionally directed at me? Finally, divest the event of your moral verdicts. The past event has occurred, yet your interpretation of it remains a choice. You cannot reverse time. You cannot control the person who committed the act. However, you hold absolute authority over whether their action becomes a raging tempest within your soul. Remember, anger does not punish the one who wronged you. It punishes you. It strips away your composure. It blurs your capacity for reason. It robs you of the joy you might otherwise be enjoying. So why surrender the kingdom of your mind to someone else's fleeting action? Envision yourself as a towering tree amid a tempest. The wind may howl, the rain may batter down, the branches may tremble. Yet your roots strike deep into the enduring earth. The storm passes, the tree remains. That is inner strength. It is not the absence of storms, but the refusal to let the storm dictate who you are. If necessary, whisper to your soul, "No one holds the franchise on my peace, save for myself." Principle 2. Abandon the demand for human perfection. Every single morning, Marcus Aurelius would prepare his mind for a stark truth that many of us deliberately choose to forget. Human beings possess flaws. Some are selfish, some are callous, some are arrogant, some lack integrity, some are consumed by envy. Some inflict pain simply because they know no better way to exist. Why would a Roman emperor need to prepare himself for such realities? Because he understood a fundamental axiom: if you expect everyone to behave exactly as you desire, you are deliberately preparing yourself for a lifetime of perpetual rage. Look squarely at reality. Human beings will commit errors. They will break promises. They will utter thoughtless words. At times, they will act selfishly. They may even treat you with profound cruelty. If you walk through life harboring the naive belief that these occurrences are forbidden to happen, every single time they do, you will be thrown into shock. Yet, if you anticipate human imperfection beforehand, you will never be surprised to the point of losing your own center. Observe a child. When a child stumbles or makes a mistake, you are rarely shocked. You recognize they are learning. You correct them. You guide them. You exercise patience. Yet when an adult makes a mistake, our reaction shifts dramatically. We think, they should know better. They are grown adults. They ought to understand what they've done. And that rigid expectation becomes fuel for our fury. Stoicism does not command you to condone malicious behavior. It merely warns you not to let another person's imperfection shatter your own integrity. Seneca emphasized that healing is vastly superior to seeking vengeance, for retaliation drags you down into the exact same chaotic swamp occupied by the one who harmed you. Therefore, prepare your mind. Every morning, before stepping out into the world, remind yourself, today I shall encounter individuals who may prove rude, selfish, or unjust. Yet none of them possess the power to strip away my peace. When someone acts from ignorance, perceive their ignorance before branding them an enemy. This does not mean you must accept toxic behavior. You retain the right to say no. You can walk away. You can establish boundaries. You can correct what can be corrected. yet you execute all of these actions without transforming yourself into a raging adversary. Diminish the weight of your expectations. If you demand a world where no one ever disappoints you, you inhabit a fantasy realm. Yet if you accept that human error is inevitable, a harsh word will no longer cause your world to collapse. A broken promise transforms from a catastrophe into a practical matter to be handled. A thoughtless act becomes a phenomenon to be observed. It ceases to be a perpetual war waging inside your consciousness. Think of a bustling marketplace. Someone jostles against you. Someone speaks too loudly. Someone cuts the queue. Do you fly into a blind rage at every single individual? Or do you simply recognize that chaos is an inherent feature of crowded spaces? Life operates on the exact same principle. When you cease demanding that the world run with mechanical perfection, you cease being perpetually disappointed by it. You cannot rewrite human nature. Walakin, you can master your preparation to confront it, and that preparation generates immense power. The next time someone behaves selfishly, tell yourself, I already know human beings are capable of this. Their flaw is not my tempest. For if you wait until the day arrives when no one can ever displease you, you will wait until your final breath. True strength does not consist of screaming louder when insulted. True strength is the capacity to remain utterly tranquil while others attempt to drag you into their turbulence. I accept human imperfection, yet I deliberately choose peace. Principle 3. Master the internal voice of the mind. Epictetus declared that men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of things. This stands as one of the most profound truths within Stoic philosophy. There is an internal voice that operates continuously inside your head. It comments, it judges, it interprets, it narrates every event that just transpired, and that exact voice possesses the capacity to transform a minor inconvenience into a colossal internal war. Someone utters a bitter remark. The physical interaction concludes. Yet your mind springs into motion. How dare she speak to me like that? Unbelievable. I should have retorted with this. Why do they always treat me this way? You are no longer inhabiting the physical event. You are inhabiting the poisonous version of the event, manufactured by your own mind. This explains why the exact same sentence can throw one person into a fury while leaving another completely unshakable. Imagine a stranger walking past you, hurling an insult in a language completely foreign to your ears. Do you feel anger? Likely not, because you do not comprehend its meaning. Yet if that exact same sentence is spoken in your native tongue, your mind instantly decodes it. You memorize every syllable, you repeat it, you dissect it, and with each repetition, the wound deepens. The problem does not lie solely in the words spoken. The problem lies in your mind's stubborn attachment to those words. To break free from this loop, master 3 disciplines. First, recognize the initial thought. Anger typically begins with a microscopic premise. They look down on me. This is utterly intolerable. This is profoundly unfair. Intercept that thought, the precise millisecond it emerges. Do not permit it to blossom into a sprawling narrative. Remind yourself, this is merely my judgment, not an immutable law of the universe. Second, replace. Do not repeat. If you continually chant, I cannot believe they did this to me, you are throwing gasoline onto an open fire. Substitute it with a Stoic maxim, they act according to their nature, I act according to my principles, or I cannot control them, but I hold absolute control over my reaction. A new linguistic track creates a fresh pathway for the mind. Third, address yourself as a wise guide. Do not convert your mind into your own executioner. Stop cursing yourself. Stop catastrophizing. Stop engaging in endless cycles of blame. Instead, ask, Does this anger serve any productive purpose for me? If I remain calm, how much more effectively can I handle this? Speak to yourself as a seasoned master instructing a cherished companion. Seneca reminded us that we suffer far more in imagination than in reality, and that imagination speaks primarily through the internal voice echoing inside your head. If you fail to train it, it will rule you. Yet if you master it, you can stand before insults, betrayals, and trials without ever losing your core. Every evening, dedicate a brief moment to reflection. Where did my mind magnify a trivial annoyance today? Did I append any unnecessary narratives to a neutral event? Then, rewrite the memory with absolute sobriety. Engage in journaling. Marcus Aurelius did not compose his meditations to court public applause. He wrote to discipline his mind, to anchor himself, to realign with the principles by which he asperously chose to live. You can do the exact same. When an ember of anger refuses to die, write it down, then interrogate it. Which specific judgment of mine made this pain sharper than necessary? Replace it with a lucid perspective. View your mind as a grand theater. If you grant angry scripts free rein to run unchecked, they will consume the entire stage. Yet if you replace those scripts with reason and composure, anger is starved of its audience. The next time you feel the internal fire rising, halt. Ask, at this exact moment, what am I whispering to myself? You will realize a vital truth. The other person is no longer actively harming you. The world is not waging a continuous assault against you. It is your own internal dialogue that keeps the furnace burning, and the moment you perceive that mechanism, the fire begins to wither. When you master the voice within, you master your own sanctuary. Principle 4. Create a sacred pause before reacting. There exists a microscopic expanse of space situated between an event and your subsequent action. That expanse may endure for merely a handful of seconds. Yet housed within that space resides one of humanity's greatest endowments, the power of choice. Viktor Frankl, though not explicitly a Stoic philosopher, articulated a concept aligned perfectly with this spirit. Between stimulus and response lies a space, and in that space rests our power to choose our response. Anger detests spaces. It demands immediate execution. Someone insults you, you strike back. A circumstance falters, you erupt. You experience a setback. You act at the absolute peak of emotional excitation. Yet the moment you insert a tiny wedge of distance between the event and your reaction, you begin reclaiming your sovereignty. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that you hold power over your mind, not external events. True strength commences the absolute second you refuse to act on raw instinct. Imagine someone insulting you in front of a crowd. What is your primary reflex? Defensiveness, counterattack, or smoldering, silent fury? What happens if you simply execute 3 deliberate breaths? 1, 2, 3. Within those seconds, you remind yourself, their words possess no authority to harm me unless I voluntarily grant it. You do not need to plunge into the gutter with them. You can stand above the turbulence. Consider another scenario. You are running late. Traffic is gridlocked. The vehicle ahead crawls at a snail's pace. Frustration surges. You want to slam your fist on the horn. You want to curse. You want to carry that foul mood all the way to your destination. Yet you inject a pause, deep inhalation, and a silent reminder. This lies outside my control. My internal peace does not. This is not weakness. This is supreme discipline. You are proving conclusively that you are no slave to reflex. You are the commander of your interior world. Train your breath. Whenever anger strikes, execute 3 slow breaths prior to speaking or moving. Establish a mental anchor. Phrases such as, "It is merely noise," or "I refuse to surrender my peace to this." Delay your response. Never instantly reply to a provocative message. Never dispatch an email while your blood runs hot. Never charge into a confrontation simply to prove your supremacy. An hour later, or a day later, what once felt catastrophic will have shed the vast majority of its heat. Seneca emphasized that delay stands as one of the most potent antidotes to anger. For anger resembles a fire. The more immediate fuel you feed it, the fiercer it blazes. Yet if you introduce distance, it starves and extinguishes itself. Do not wait for monumental conflicts to train your capacity to pause. Practice on the trivial. When you spill a glass of water, when someone speaks too loudly, when an itinerary shifts unexpectedly, when a minor plan collapses, the tiny pauses practiced today forge the armor required for the monumental storms of tomorrow. The world expects a reaction. People expect you to lose your temper when insulted, to slam doors when frustrated, to lash out when betrayed. Yet when you stand utterly calm, they realize an unshakable truth. You are not easily manipulated. That is true power. Creating a pause is not merely a tactic to dodge conflict. It is an act of architecting your personal dignity. You are declaring to yourself, "I am not a creature driven purely by reflex. I am a rational human being endowed with discipline and choice. And within that precise choice, true freedom is born." The next time life tests your limits, do not frantically ask, "How do I instantly crush this anger?" Ask instead, "Can I pause long enough to let reason speak?" Sometimes, a single pause saves a relationship, saves your tranquility, and saves you from a decision made in the blindness of passion. Principle 5. Never let another's words become your reality. Epictetus taught that when someone reviles you, they are simply acting in accordance with what they believe to be correct. What wounds you is not merely the speech itself. It is the hospitality you extend to it, how you receive and interpret it. This principle stands as an absolute cornerstone because the vast majority of us flare up when insulted precisely because we internalize the blow. Someone speaks a toxic sentence, and you allow it to pierce straight to your core. You convert their opinion into a definitive verdict upon your personal worth. Yet, look closer. A bitter soul spews bitterness. An insecure individual projects their internal void onto others. Someone waging an internal war against life will hurl their shrapnel at whoever happens to stand in their path. Thus, human insults often resemble mirrors far more than arrows. They reflect the internal landscape of the speaker. They do not measure your intrinsic value. Seneca warned that he who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary. When someone insults you, you experience pain once upon hearing it. Yet if you replay it endlessly within your mind, you inflict the second wound upon yourself. Adopt a paradigm shift. Do not declare, "They hurt me." Think instead, "They have just revealed a fragment of who they are." Their words may expose malice, ignorance, insecurity, or a total lack of self-regulation. They do not define your character. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that if you choose to view yourself as unharmed, the opinions of others lose their power to pierce you. Envision holding a pure diamond. A stranger approaches and declares, "This stone possesses zero value." Does the diamond forfeit its worth simply because an ignorant tongue wagged? Emphatically no. Its value is not calibrated by the declarations of a passerby. Neither is yours. Your worth does not inflate when praised by strangers, nor does it evaporate when insulted by them. At times, the most potent response is absolute silence. Not out of weakness, but because you possess no obligation to prove your worth to someone desperately trying to drag you into their arena. Let us be honest. Words can sting. When someone mocks you, lies about you, or attempts to humiliate you, the urge to strike back runs deep in human blood. Yet remember, another's words invariably reveal vastly more about their character than about your essence. Imagine someone handing you a burning coal with the intent to throw it at you. If you grab it bare-handed to hurl it back, who sustains the burn? You do. An insult operates identically. It only burns you when you voluntarily pick it up and clutch it tight within your mind. The next time someone speaks words designed to wound, ask yourself, do I genuinely need to carry this poison with me? If not, drop it. Not every opinion deserves real estate in your mind. When you cease personalizing every external action, you become impervious to assaults that never truly belonged to you in the first place. Others may scream, they may mock, they may criticize, yet their words cease to be shackles the moment you refuse to lock them around your wrists. The wise do not waste vital energy fighting every shadow they encounter. They continue walking, calm, resolute, unobligated to return every piece of filth hurled their way. Principle 6. Release early and you are truly free. Seneca warned that if left unchecked, anger inflicts far more damage upon ourselves than the initial catalyst that sparked it. And this remains a truth most refuse to acknowledge. The event occurs once, yet we replay it hundreds of times. You suffer an insult, the interaction terminates, yet that night you lie awake ruminating, I should have replied with that phrase, I had no business letting them walk over me. If I cross paths with them again, I will say this, the other party is likely sleeping soundly, while you remain locked in combat with a ghost inside your skull. Who is enduring the agony? You are. This is precisely why letting go is never an expression of weakness. It is an exertion of supreme power. Think of that burning coal once more. The longer you cling to it, the deeper the scars you sustain. Yet many cling to it out of a misguided belief that by doing so, they are somehow punishing the wrongdoer. In reality, the only person incinerated is oneself. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that the ultimate form of retaliation is not to resemble the one who wronged you. If they burn with rage and you match their fire, you have permitted their behavior to transform your identity. If they destabilize your equilibrium and you grant that instability permanent residency, they have claimed a secondary victory. How does one truly release? First, name accurately what you are carrying. Be radically honest. I am still clutching this resentment. Do not dress it up in noble garments like justice, principle, or unacceptable standards. Honesty with oneself marks the foundational step toward putting down the burden. Second, refuse the second wound. The first wound was inflicted by another. The second wound is self-inflicted through your refusal to let go. Ask, why am I choosing to continue bleeding over something already finished? You possess zero power to alter the past. However, you retain absolute authority to refuse its recreation inside your consciousness. Third, redirect your energy toward purposeful action. If a situation demands repair, repair it. If a problem requires resolution, resolve it. If it lies entirely beyond modification, accept it and advance. Do not siphon your precious life force into the furnace of rancor. Channel it into constructive execution. You may also employ simple visualization. Envision your anger as a jagged stone tightly clenched within your palm. You have gripped it far too long. Now, open your fingers. Let it drop to the earth. Sometimes a stark visual allows the mind to comprehend that the hour of release has arrived. Imagine surviving a ferocious argument. Both parties exchanged bitter blows. Night falls. The other sleeps peacefully. While you toss and turn, mentally rewiring every sentence, For whose benefit are you enduring this self-torture? Not theirs, yours. Yet the moment you declare, "It happened, it is finished, I refuse to resurrect it for another second," a profound shift occurs. Your breathing grows lighter. Your mind clears. You anchor yourself back in the present, and the peace that was always there reasserts itself. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that life can terminate at any given second. Let that realization calibrate your expenditure of time. If today marked your final day on earth, would you genuinely choose to spend it replaying a stranger's petty insult? Would you cling to a grudge for another hour? Or would you set the weight down and spend your remaining hours in absolute serenity? Releasing quickly does not imply denying the pain. It signifies your refusal to permit the pain to own your future. Another can wound you once, yet you are under no obligation to grant them permission to wound you a second time inside your own thoughts. The next time anger surfaces, ask, "Do I wish to keep hauling this burning coal, or shall I drop it this very instant?" The sooner you release, the lighter you stride. Principle 7. Transform adversity into your master. Marcus Aurelius recorded one of the most famous axioms of Stoicism. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. An obstacle is not inherently an enemy. It can serve as a master. This stands as one of the most powerful perspective shifts you can ever execute. Every insult, every disappointment, every delay, every failure, every broken plan possesses the potential to serve as your instructor. The core issue is that the vast majority of us perceive hardship as a personal assault. Someone disrespects you, you think, "Why are they doing this to me?" An opportunity vanishes. You think, "The universe is conspiring against me." A plan collapses. You think, "Why does this always happen to me?" Yet Stoicism introduces a radically different inquiry. What can I extract and learn from this? A single question alters your entire psychological state. Because the exact second you begin hunting for the lesson, anger surrenders a massive portion of its grip. A problem transforms into a training exercise. An obstacle becomes conditioning. A failure morphs into an audit of your character. Seneca compared hardship to physical conditioning. Muscles never strengthen without resistance. Human character operates identically. If you have never encountered disrespect, how do you forge patience? If you have never faced opposition, how will you ever test your capacity for composure? If life never disappointed you, how could you ever master acceptance? Therefore, when someone provokes your anger, do not merely ask, "Why me?" Ask instead, what specific muscle is life demanding that I train right now? Perhaps patience, perhaps composure, perhaps detachment from external opinions, perhaps radical acceptance. Redefine the currency of adversity. Instead of, "This ruins everything," declare, "This constitutes part of my rigorous training." View every difficulty as a weighted iron bar in the gymnasium of life. Without heavy resistance, there is no hypertrophy of character. Without trials, inner fortitude remains an impossibility. Do not fixate exclusively upon the pain. Hunt for the curriculum hidden behind it. An insult builds endurance. A delay tempers impatience. A loss constructs the capacity for surrender. Imagine someone shattering your trust. You could squander weeks nursing the betrayal, or you can step backward and interrogate, what does this teach me about discernment? What does this reveal about human nature under pressure? How do I expand my wisdom through this trial? The lesson solidifies into armor. It does not erase the ache, yet it prevents the ache from consuming your soul. Consider the loss of an opportunity you labored endlessly to attain. You can marinate in bitterness, or you can state, This serves as my masterclass in radical acceptance. You are never required to pretend that loss is pleasant. You are merely required to refuse to let it remain meaningless. Marcus Aurelius navigated war, plague, political betrayal, and ceaseless public criticism, yet he continuously retreated to the foundational maxim that the impediment on the path becomes the path itself. That is how he converted misery into mastery. When you begin viewing life through this framework, a staggering phenomenon occurs. You cease being blindsided by difficulty. Instead of whining, "Why did this have to happen?" you begin thinking, "Very well, here presents another training drill." Instead of rage, you feel readiness. Instead of bitterness, you seek wisdom. Every trial grants you deeper stillness. Every mastered surge of anger makes you marginally more unshakable. Because life will never cease generating obstacles. People will continue disappointing you. Plans will continue fracturing. Unforeseen disasters will materialize. You possess zero power to halt them. Yet you possess absolute power to train your posture toward them, meeting them with relentless curiosity rather than blind fury. The next time you feel life pressing against you, halt. Ask, what curriculum is hidden inside this trial? And remind yourself, this obstacle is not my executioner. It is my instructor. When your perspective shifts, your entire relationship with existence transforms. Nothing is utterly wasted. Every friction point becomes calibration. Every insult becomes a classroom. Every failure solidifies into strength disguised as pain. And the moment you perceive that truth, you no longer harbor resentment toward life for what it delivers. You learn to walk beside it, to learn from it, and to expand because of it. Every obstacle serves as my master, never my executioner. Principle 8. Return instantly to the present. Seneca reminded us that we suffer far more in imagination than in reality. And this remains one of the primary guises of human fury, because the vast majority of the time, you are not angry at what is happening now. You are angry at what occurred yesterday, or what might transpire tomorrow, or what you believe ought to have happened. Examine yourself. Someone wounded you yesterday. Yet today, you sit replaying the exact scene, reconstructing sentences, imagining the retorts you should have delivered. An event has long since concluded, yet your mind continues residing within its wreckage. Or perhaps you dread someone betraying you in the future. Nothing has materialized. Yet your imagination has already storyboarded dozens of catastrophic scripts. You experience anxiety, tension, and anger directed at a phantom that does not yet exist. This is the exact moment the mind abandons the present. The Stoic philosophers understood that true power resides exclusively in this breath. You cannot rewrite the past, you cannot manipulate the future, yet right now, you retain the absolute sovereignty to choose your thoughts, to select your focal point, to determine your next action. Envision the present moment as a steadfast anchor tossed into a violent sea. The waves may rage, the gale may shriek, yet the anchor holds the vessel fast against drifting into oblivion. Marcus Aurelius routinely instructed himself to confine his mind strictly to the present. A simple, yet devastatingly potent discipline. When your consciousness drifts into the retrospective past, catch it. Ah, I am resurrecting yesterday's ghost. When it sprints into speculative futures, ah, I am manufacturing a phantom disaster. Awareness serves as your primary anchor. Then, gently herd your attention back to the immediate reality. Observe the physical environment before you. Listen to the ambient sounds. Feel the soles of your feet pressing against the earth. Sense the air filling your lungs and leaving your chest. You will realize an undeniable truth. The present moment is not insulting you. It is not betraying you. It is not disappointing you. It is simply unfolding as it is. Then ask yourself, at this exact moment, what is within my power to do? Not, why did this happen? Not, if only things were different. Instead, what is the immediate, constructive step within my control? If a problem demands resolution, execute it. If nothing can be altered, fortify your inner peace. Vast oceans of anger originate from mere linguistic constructs. Should, ought. They should have acted differently. This ought never to have happened. Life ought to be fairer. Yet reality carries zero obligation to bow before our personal preferences. Stoicism trains us to embrace actual reality rather than waging a perpetual war against the fantasy version we wish existed. You can cultivate presence daily, require merely minutes, sit in stillness, breathe, observe, hitch your mind back to the ground you currently occupy. Complexity is unnecessary. Merely practice the discipline of returning. When you sustain this long enough, the triggers that once drove you insane shed their crushing weight. A rude remark degrades into mere vibrations of air. A mistake reduces to a neutral event. A traffic jam becomes nothing more than cars occupying space. A delayed message is reduced to a delayed message. Everything lightens the moment you strip away the extraneous narratives. Epictetus reminded us that instead of demanding that events unfold according to your wishes, learn to wish for events to unfold precisely as they do. That is ultimate freedom. For anger dwells perpetually within the shadows of how it used to be, how it ought to have been, how it might turn out, while peace resides permanently within the luminosity of how it actually is. The next time anger claws at your throat, ask, am I suffering because of raw reality or because of my memory and imagination? Then march back to what genuinely exists. Right here, right now. You will be astounded to discover that the vast majority of your anger cannot survive once you starve it of past grievances and future phantoms. Remind yourself, I inhabit the present, and stillness is my anchor. Conclusion: the supreme power lies in mastering your inner world. Review the entirety of this journey. You commenced by learning to separate the event from your judgment. You discovered that what occurs is rarely the architect of your pain. Frequently, it is the narrative you spin around it that fans the flames. Next, you mastered preparing for human imperfection, because if you demand that every soul act according to your blueprints, you condemn yourself to permanent disappointment. You mastered governing your internal dialogue, for the mind possesses the terrifying capacity to stretch a single sentence into hours of agony. You learned to forge a pause, because mere seconds between stimulus and reaction allow reason to seize the helm. You mastered refusing to let another's words define your worth, because an insult tells you vastly more about the speaker's pathology than your identity. You learned the art of letting go, because an event happens once, yet clinging to it guarantees you will inflict the wound upon yourself 1,000 times over. You discovered how to transform obstacles into masters, because adversity does not need to shatter you, it can forge you. And finally, you mastered returning to the present, the soul arena where your agency holds true power. All of these principles converge upon a single, unyielding truth. The external world cannot unilaterally command your interior state unless you hand it the keys. An insult remains mere noise until your mind elects to turn it into a gashing wound. A failure remains a neutral event until you turn it into a life sentence. An obstacle remains a barrier until you recognize it as a curriculum. And anger can only enslave you when you surrender the driver's seat. Remember, anger is a thief. It pillages your clarity. It plunders your joy. It steals your focus. It strips away your capacity for rational execution. It forces you to hand ultimate authority over to individuals who likely forgot your existence minutes later. Yet you are not required to live as their hostage. You can halt. You can observe your thoughts. You can inhale. You can choose. You can release. You can extract the lesson. You can march back to the present. And most importantly, you can decide precisely who you will be in the face of whatever life hurls your way. Do not misunderstand. Stoicism does not promise that life will cease testing you. Emphatically no. People will continue disappointing you. Plans will fracture. Injustice will rear its head. Days will arrive where the universe seems entirely arrayed against your desires. Yet you are altered. You no longer demand a tranquil world in order to possess tranquility. You no longer require others to behave with flawless honor in order to preserve your dignity. You no longer require circumstances to bend to your whims in order to remain serene. Because you have constructed an inviolable citadel where the external world cannot easily trespass, your inner world. A disciplined intellect, a governed reaction, a heart impervious to hatred, a human being who knows precisely when to strike and precisely when to let go. That is true freedom. Freedom is not an existence stripped of problems. Freedom is the absolute capacity to command oneself even when problems roar. Life will continue hurling challenges your way, yet no tempest is ferocious enough to demolish an intellect fortified by reason, discipline, and absolute calm. Therefore, do not wait for tomorrow. Commence with the microscopic moments. The next time someone provokes your blood, do not react instantly. Breathe, observe, ask, what is actually transpiring? Which fraction of this falls under my absolute control? Am I reacting to raw reality or to the phantom narrative inside my skull? If you possess the power to alter it, act. If you possess no power to alter it, embrace radical acceptance. If another acts with dishonor, preserve your own unshakable code. If an obstacle materializes, hunt for the masterclass. If the past claws at your ankles, return to the present. And if anger attempts to seize the wheel, remember that you are never forced to grant it the driver's seat. You hold the power of choice. Every single day, every single hour, in every microscopic moment. At first, old reflexes will flare. You may still grow hot. You may still feel frustration. You may still crave retaliation. Yet every single time you pause instead of reacting, you construct discipline. And every single time you release instead of clinging to a grudge, you construct freedom. Every single time you mine the lesson instead of whining about the problem, you construct wisdom. Every single time you drag your mind back to the present instead of lingering in the grave of the past, you construct absolute peace. And eventually, a day arrives when you realize the things that once stole your sleep no longer possess the leverage to shake you. The words that once carved deep wounds vanish from your mind almost instantly. The individuals who once commanded the power to detonate your temper no longer hold the key to your interior sanctuary. Not because they transformed, because you transformed. That stands as the ultimate revelation. You do not need to rewrite the entire universe to secure your peace. You only need to recalibrate your relationship with what lies outside your dominion. Forge yourself into an individual capable of standing dead center in a hurricane while retaining absolute clarity. Standing before insults without shedding personal dignity. Standing before catastrophic failure without forfeiting faith in your own core. Standing before unrelenting adversity while asking, into whom is this trial forging me? That is the supreme power Stoicism awakens. Not the power to dominate others, the power to refuse others' dominance over your mind. If you commit to this path today, engrave these 8 principles upon your soul. 1. Separate the event from your judgment. 2. Prepare for human imperfection. 3. Master the internal voice of the mind. 4. Create a sacred pause before reacting. 5. Never let another's words define your reality. 6. Release early, before resentment takes root. 7. Transform adversity into your master. 8. Return instantly to the present. Do not merely consume these words, live them. For philosophy holds zero intrinsic value until it abandons the pages of books and manifests within your posture on your darkest days. Practice on the trivialities, a callous remark, a prolonged wait, a rearranged itinerary, a thoughtless act. Every single one of these micro-moments serves as your gymnasium. Every time you successfully secure your composure, you expand your structural integrity. And slowly, incrementally, old reflexes starve. Your intellect sharpens. Your existence grows profoundly still. You cease surrendering your serenity to the whims of passers-by. You begin to grasp that true power is rarely loud. Occasionally, power is simply refusing to utter the words you would later regret, refusing to answer hatred with venom, refusing to carry a dead issue into tomorrow, refusing to let a stranger calibrate your self-worth, refusing to allow one brutal morning to contaminate your entire life. And ultimately, you comprehend an immutable truth. Peace is not a gift handed down by the world. It is a fortress you learn to guard with your life. Hold it fast, train it relentlessly, command it absolutely, and when life unleashes its gales once more, stand unyielding. For you cannot govern the hurricane, yet you retain absolute command over how you stand within it. I am calm, I am unshakable, I master my own mind, I surrender my peace to no man. Stand firm, live deliberately, master your interior,